Can you imagine the chaos? A spark, a deafening pop, and then, oh, the sheer delight of it, the most ear-splitting shriek I'd ever heard echoing over the fence. It was Karen, my oh-so-entitled neighbor, wailing as if her prized Gucci sneakers had burst into flames. But let's be real, it wasn't her sneakers. It was her son's ATV charger sizzling and smoking like a backyard barbecue gone wrong. And honestly, she had it coming. You don't mess with an electrical engineer's power grid and think you'll just waltz away unscathed. Not after I warned her, not after she brushed me off, and certainly not after she had the audacity to laugh in my face saying, "It's just a little juice, lighten up." Lighten up? Oh, I lightened up. All right. I lit up her entire backyard with a voltage surge so spectacular it turned her cheap, off-brand ATV into a glorified toaster. Can you believe the nerve of that woman? Let's take a step back, though, because this story, it's a wild ride, and you need the full scoop to appreciate the sweet, sweet justice of it all. This wasn't some random spark-filled showdown. It started with a tiny, sneaky blip on my home energy monitor. Now, I'm not your average Joe with a toolbox and a bad attitude. I'm a certified systems engineer, the kind of guy who designs power infrastructure for massive data centers. Electricity, it's my love language, my passion, my everything. So when my solar inverter started whispering about mysterious phantom drains in the dead of night, you bet I noticed. Most people wouldn't bat an eye, but me? I'm not most people, and I was ready to get to the bottom of this electric mystery. I live in one of those quiet, picture-perfect neighborhoods where folks obsess over their pristine lawn edges and trade tips on homemade compost like it's fine art. I'm the guy who keeps to himself, tinkering with my home power grid, always on the lookout for anything out of the ordinary. That week, something was definitely off. Every single night between 1 and 3 a.m., my system logged a sneaky 1.8 kWh dip that didn't match any of my devices. Not the HVAC, not the hot tub, not even my backup battery cycling. What was going on? Something external was siphoning my power, and my gut was pointing straight at the energy leech next door, Karen. Oh, Karen, you know her type, don't you? Rocking those ridiculously expensive sunglasses, with a voice that booms like a foghorn and not a shred of respect for personal boundaries. She rolled into our neighborhood 2 years ago, fresh off a messy divorce, and let me tell you, it's been a non-stop circus of bad choices ever since. Wine-drunk brunches, HOA violations that somehow never got enforced. Karen was a walking tornado of chaos. Her favorite hobby? Making up absurd neighborhood rules and waving the HOA handbook around like it was the pointless Constitution. She once screamed at a poor 10-year-old kid for riding his bike too close to her precious hydrangeas. Can you imagine? But her latest obsession was the real kicker. A loud, obnoxious, souped-up electric ATV she bought for her teenage son. That thing roared through the streets, annoying everyone. And here's the kicker, it ran on electricity. My electricity, as it turned out. I first spotted the evidence while trimming my hedges. A bright orange extension cord, slithering over the back fence like some sneaky serpent. It stretched from Karen's side and vanished behind my tool shed. I blinked, thinking, no way, that's impossible. I didn't even have outdoor outlets back there. Could she really be that brazen? That night, I decided to test my suspicions. I shut off all my exterior breakers except one, just to see what would happen. Sure enough, the next morning, my logs screamed the truth. A power dip at exactly 2:12 a.m. I marched out, traced the fence line, and poof, the cord was gone, retracted and hidden. But not before I snapped some incriminating photos. Gotcha, Karen. I figured I'd give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was a mistake, right? Maybe her son plugged in without realizing it was my outlet. So I strolled over to her house the next day, rang the bell, and there she was, Karen, decked out in yoga pants, oversized sunglasses, clutching a mimosa like she was starring in a brunch reality show. I calmly mentioned the power drain and asked if anyone in her household had used my outlet. She blinked, flashed a fake smile, and said, "Oh, that? Yeah, we figured it was no biggie. Just a little charge while our garage panel gets fixed. You've got solar, right? You barely notice it." Barely notice it? Are you kidding me? That's not how electricity works, Karen. And it's definitely not how permission works. I tried to keep my cool, explaining that, however small, it was theft and it messed with my system's balance. Her response? She patted my arm, patted it, and cooed, "Relax, you're such a tech guy. It's not like we're draining your car battery or something." I walked away before I said something I'd regret, but oh, my mind was racing. I called the HOA and reported the theft, thinking they'd handle it. 3 days later, a warning letter lands in my mailbox, accusing me of creating hostile neighbor dynamics and unauthorized modifications to shared structures. Apparently, Karen spun a wild tale, claiming I'd rigged dangerous traps along the fence and was threatening her family with electric shocks. I was floored. Can you believe the gall? I'm not the confrontational type, but mess with my grid and lie about it? Oh, Karen, you've just stepped into my world. She thought I was just some quiet nerd with solar panels, but she had no idea who she was dealing with. I design fail-safe systems that keep military-grade servers humming. I once built a backup grid for a hospital using nothing but spare parts and a whole lot of caffeine. She had no clue I was about to turn her little midnight ATV joyride into a fireworks show she'd never forget. Game on, Karen. That night, I started sketching my plan, my heart pounding with a mix of anger and excitement. I wasn't just going to catch her, I was going to teach her a lesson she'd never forget. I designed a decoy outlet, something so tempting she couldn't resist, wired with a perfectly legal, perfectly safe, but absolutely devastating surprise. This wasn't about endangering anyone, it was about protecting my craft and delivering justice. I installed the fake outlet on my side of the fence, angled just right to look like I'd forgotten it, like it was carelessly wired to my tool shed. It screamed easy target, unguarded, live, irresistible. But here's the genius part. It was hooked up to a carefully tuned impedance circuit that would fry any charger pulling more than 3 amps. A regular household appliance? No problem. But an ATV charger? Oh, it was toast. I set my trap, my heart racing with anticipation, and waited. 3 nights later, there it was, that sneaky orange cord, coiled and plugged in like a thief in the night. I sat in my workshop sipping tea, watching my monitors like a hawk. At 2:17 a.m., the log spiked, just as I'd planned. The circuit kicked in, and bam, a brilliant blue flash lit up the night, followed by a loud pop. And then, the piece de resistance, Karen's shriek, slicing through the silence like a karaoke machine stuck in a blender. I peeked out and saw her son, stumbling out in his boxers, staring in horror as his precious ATV billowed smoke like a haunted house prop. I couldn't stop grinning. Take that, Karen. But oh, that was just the opening act. Karen thought she could steal from an engineer and skip away without a scratch. But the voltage she fried was nothing compared to the storm I was about to unleash. The HOA, in their infinite wisdom, made a colossal mistake. They backed her. Big mistake. That meant war, and I was ready to fight with every watt in my arsenal. The morning after the great backyard surge, Karen's place was pure chaos. I woke to the sound of her stomping around in fluffy slippers, muttering about sabotage and yelling into her phone, probably demanding the fire marshal's immediate attention. I stood at my kitchen window, sipping fresh coffee, watching the drama unfold like it was a live soap opera. The cord had vanished again, The ATV was hidden under a tarp like a crime scene cover-up, and Karen was glued to her phone, no doubt spinning a tale about how her poor child was nearly electrocuted by my booby-trapped outlet. Electrocuted? Please! It was just a fried charger and a mom who didn't get that karma comes with a fuse. By midday, I had a visitor. Some guy in khakis and a golf shirt, clutching a clipboard and wearing a smug grin like he was about to school me. "You can't just install unauthorized electrical devices along a shared boundary," he barked, not even bothering to introduce himself. Karen had run to the HOA again, and now they were here to lecture me about hazardous installations endangering the community. I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing as he rattled off bylaws that had nothing to do with electricity and everything to do with Karen's wild imagination. I calmly explained that the outlet was on my property, legally installed and up to code. What I didn't tell him? It was rigged with a non-lethal surge induction loop that tripped when a specific current threshold was breached, totally safe for humans, pets, or even a curious squirrel, but pure kryptonite for sensitive electronics like Karen's charger. He scribbled something on his clipboard, mumbled about a further review, and I offered him a cookie just to mess with him. He declined, and I knew this was far from over. Karen wasn't done. She doubled down because that's what entitled people do. They escalate. So I escalated too, but not with petty tantrums, with cold, hard precision. I wasn't about to sit around waiting for another cord to slink over my fence. I needed to catch her red-handed, every single time. Back to the drawing board I went, my mind buzzing with ideas. I upgraded the fake outlet, hiding a data logger inside an old garden gnome. How's that for sneaky? It was connected to my home server, time-stamping every plug-in, capturing voltage draws, and pinging my phone with alerts. If anything crossed the preset threshold, the outlet would unleash a perfectly timed voltage spike, not enough to start a fire, but enough to make any charger go kaput. I tested it on an old leaf blower twice just to be sure. This was my masterpiece, and I was ready for round 2. 3 nights passed, and I started to wonder, had Karen learned her lesson? Not a chance. On the 4th night at 1:42 a.m., my phone lit up, power draw detected, 2.7 kWh and climbing. Then another alert, surge threshold exceeded, event triggered. I pulled up the live feed, my heart pounding, and there it was, a dazzling flash from my birdhouse camera, the extension cord twitching like it was alive, and the ATV charger sparking like a 4th of July finale. Karen's son, shirtless and bewildered, stumbled back like a deer in headlights, fumbling to unplug the cord. Too late, kid. Smoke curled from the charger, and I leaned back, grinning. My system was flawless, absolutely flawless. That wasn't the end, though. Oh no, this was just the spark that ignited the real fireworks. Karen's audacity, the HOA's blunders, and a neighborhood fed up with her antics were about to collide in a showdown for the ages. I wasn't just protecting my grid anymore, I was fighting for justice, and I was ready to crank up the voltage on this electric saga. Oh, the thrill of it all. Can you imagine the rush of outsmarting a thief in the dead of night? I took my plan to the next level, installing motion-triggered cameras cleverly disguised as charming little birdhouses, along with a floodlight that had been gathering dust in my garage from an abandoned security project. Now, they had a purpose, a glorious one. One camera zeroed in on my fake outlet. Another kept a watchful eye on the corner of Karen's yard, where her son's obnoxious ATV usually lounged. And a third stood guard over the fence line we shared. Every single feed was piped straight to my server and backed up to the cloud. If Karen so much as sneezed near that outlet, I'd have her on tape. Can you believe the audacity of thinking she could outwit me? But wait, here's where it gets even juicier. The real stroke of genius was my decoy extension cord. I draped it casually over the fence, coiled just so, like I'd gotten sloppy after a long day of yard work. It was plugged into the dummy outlet, looking oh so functional, but here's the kicker. The wiring was secretly rerouted through a surge trip circuit I'd buried beneath my flower bed. If Karen or her sneaky son dared to snatch that cord and plug it in again, they'd be in for a shocking surprise. My heart raced just thinking about it. Would they fall for it again? Could they really be that bold? 3 nights dragged by with no action, and I started to wonder, had Karen actually learned her lesson? Ha! Not a chance. On the 4th night at 1:42 a.m., my phone buzzed with a glorious alert. Power draw detected. 2.7 kWh and climbing. Then another ping. Surge threshold exceeded. Event triggered. My pulse quickened as I opened the live feed, and there it was, a dazzling flash lighting up my birdhouse camera. The extension cord twitched like it was alive. The charger sparked like a mini fireworks show, and the ATV let out a pitiful wheeze, as if it knew its days were numbered. Karen's son, shirtless and stumbling like a confused deer in headlights, leaped back in a panic, fumbling to unplug the cord. Too late, kid. Smoke curled from the charger, not as dramatic as the first time, but, oh, it made my point loud and clear. I leaned back in my chair, a grin spreading across my face. My system? Flawless. Absolutely flawless. By morning, the cord had vanished, but the damage was done twice now. I had video, time-stamped, geotagged, and logged, a treasure trove of evidence that would make any engineer proud. This time, I wasn't about to let the HOA slap me with another ridiculous fine. I printed a thick stack of screenshots, my heart pounding with determination, and marched straight to their office. The woman at the desk, Janice, flipped through them, her eyes widening and her scowl growing with every page. You're telling me she plugged into your outlet without permission twice? She gasped, disbelief dripping from her voice. I've got full logs and footage, I said, my tone firm but calm. Oh, and check the bylaws. Section 8B, unauthorized utility access. Janice's lips pursed tight. She knew the rule, but Karen had her claws in at least 2 board members. This wasn't going to be a simple fix, and we both knew it. We'll need to conduct a review, she said cautiously. In the meantime, I recommend removing any outdoor outlets to avoid escalation. I leaned in, my voice low but sharp. Janice, this is an HOA that fines people for mailbox colors, but lets Karen run an illegal power hookup across property lines. I've been patient. I've been quiet. But do you really think I'm just some guy with a grudge? I could cut my entire home off the grid and run on battery for 6 months if I wanted. I don't need your outlet policy. I need you to enforce the rules, or I'm taking this footage to the city utility board and filing a complaint for theft. Her jaw dropped, her mouth opening and then snapping shut. Your move, I said, turning on my heel and walking out, my heart racing with the thrill of standing my ground. That evening, Karen came storming to my front porch, and let me tell you, she was a sight. No mimosa, no sunglasses, just pure, unfiltered fury. What did you do to my ATV? She shrieked, her face red as a tomato. I played it cool, shrugging. No idea what you're talking about. She screamed that her son was traumatized. I couldn't help but fire back. Maybe he should stop stealing my electricity. Then she threatened to sue, her voice practically shaking the porch. I just smiled and said, good luck with that. I've got footage, logs, and an engineering degree that say otherwise. Then, in a moment that felt straight out of a movie, I handed her a USB stick. What's this? She snapped, eyeing it like it was a bomb. Everything you need to realize you picked the wrong neighbor, I said, and gently closed the door in her face. She didn't knock again, but I knew this wasn't over. Karen's type, they don't back down after one defeat. She'd come for me again, but I was ready, armed with more than just a surge circuit. I had the truth, the law, and a neighborhood ready to back me up. 3 days after I handed her the USB stick, the real fireworks kicked off, not the sparking kind, though her smoking ATV charger had already given us plenty of those, but the social, explosive kind that shakes a neighborhood to its core. Karen didn't take the hint. Instead of slinking away, she doubled down like the suburban tyrant she was. A police cruiser rolled into my driveway, and my stomach did a little flip. The officer was polite but firm, explaining that Karen had filed a report claiming I'd installed a dangerous electrical device that put her family at risk. I raised an eyebrow. Did she mention that her family was plugging into my outlet on my private property without permission, or that I've got security footage proving it? The officer blinked, caught off guard. She didn't mention that. No, he admitted, almost sheepishly. I invited him inside, my heart pounding with a mix of nerves and excitement. I pulled up the footage and walked him through every damning frame. Karen's son sneaking in to plug in the cord, the timestamp logs showing the power siphoning, and the second incident after their first charger got fried. I even showed him the outlet schematics, neatly labeled, wired to code, and rigged to trip only under high current load, perfectly safe for humans, but a death sentence for thieving chargers. The officer leaned back, scratching his head. Wow, he said, clearly impressed. You're not messing around, are you? No, officer, I replied, my voice steady. I'm not. But they are, and now they're dragging the law into their little tantrum. He closed his notepad with a nod. From what I am seeing, she's got no case. This is straight up utility theft. I'll write up my report, and if she pushes further, you've got more than enough evidence to shut it down. Honestly, stuff like this usually fizzles out in the paperwork. I thanked him, my chest swelling with pride as he drove off. As the cruiser pulled away, I caught sight of Karen across the street, arms crossed, sunglasses perched on her nose, sipping what had to be her fifth iced latte of the day. She stared at my house, her gaze practically daring me to step outside. Did she really think she could intimidate me? I didn't give her the satisfaction. I had bigger plans, and they were about to shake things up. The HOA, of course, wasn't done meddling. The next day, a fancy letter arrived, complete with a gold embossed seal, like they thought they were royalty instead of a bunch of nosy retirees. It claimed I'd violated Section 12A, unauthorized electrical installations posing a potential hazard to community safety. A $500 fine and a mandatory inspection notice were attached. Now I was mad, really mad. I fired back with my own complaint, packed with photos, logs, videos, and a detailed technical breakdown that would make any engineer proud. I didn't stop there. ICCD, the city's building inspector, and the local energy utility board. If the HOA wanted to play hardball, I was bringing in the big leagues. Then something incredible happened. Neighbors started knocking on my door. First came Tom, the guy with the tricked-out outdoor kitchen 2 houses down. Then Nancy, the quiet one who always waved but rarely spoke. Then the Patel family, who ran a catering business from their home. They asked the strangest questions. Ever notice your fridge blinking like it lost power overnight? Do your motion lights reset for no reason? Did Karen ever ask to use your outdoor outlets? That last one hit like a lightning bolt. I asked if they'd noticed power drops too. Tom nodded, saying his outdoor mini fridge kept losing its chill overnight. Nancy mentioned her garden lights flickering around 2 a.m. before resetting. The Patels? Their freezer had thawed out weeks ago due to a mysterious breaker trip. What was going on here? It hit me like a thunderclap. Karen wasn't just stealing from me, she was running a full-blown power theft network across the entire block. I invited them over for coffee, my heart racing with the realization. I showed them my setup, explaining how I tracked usage and set traps to catch her red-handed. When I played the footage of her son sneaking into my yard, they gasped. Tom burst out laughing, slapping his knee. I knew she was shady, but this is Olympic-level theft. We created a group chat that day, dubbed Shock by Karen. Within hours, it had 10 members. By nightfall, 23! Turns out, Karen had been siphoning free juice from half the neighborhood for months, plugging into unlocked outlets, garden ports, even some poor guy's RV hookup while he was on vacation. No one had proof until now. We got organized and it felt like a revolution. Every neighbor checked their outdoor outlets, slapping on lockboxes or covers. I helped Tom rig up a smart monitor, my fingers buzzing with excitement. Nancy gave me the green light to install a decoy cord at her place too. This wasn't just about revenge anymore, it was neighborhood justice. We were done with Karen's theft, her smug attitude, the way she acted like the rules didn't apply to her. Could we really take her down? The monthly HOA meeting, usually a dull debate about flower bed heights or patio paint colors, was anything but boring this time. We rolled in like a united front, armed with USB sticks, screenshots, and time logs. One by one, we laid out our case, our voices ringing with conviction. Karen sat in the front row, arms crossed, jaw clenched, looking like a cornered cat in a dog park. She tried to deflect, whining, "These people are exaggerating. It's all hearsay. They're just jealous." But even her buddy, HOA President Greg, squirmed in his seat. How could he ignore the mountain of evidence, the numbers, the footage, the police report I slid across the table in a crisp manila folder? We had her cornered, and it felt so good. Oh, the moment we dropped the bombshell. Can you imagine the shockwave that hit that HOA meeting? One neighbor, bless their heart, had dug into their power bills from the past year. And guess what? Their monthly average skyrocketed right when Karen rolled in with that monstrous ATV. Another neighbor cross-checked their breaker logs, and boom, the dates lined up like stars in a constellation. We had her. Our case was rock solid, data-packed, and so idiot-proof even Karen couldn't wiggle out of it. But oh, did she try! She stood up, screaming that we were harassing her, that we were targeting her, that she had every right to tap into community power because her HOA dues were so high. Community power? Are you kidding me? As if our personal property was some kind of public buffet. That was her fatal misstep, and the room exploded in protest. Even Greg, her loyal HOA president pal, couldn't shield her this time. The board voted to suspend her HOA privileges pending a full investigation. Fines were thrown around, a restraining order was whispered about, and Karen? She stormed out, nearly toppling the punch table in her rage. What a scene! But hold on, because this drama was far from over. Karen wasn't just stealing electricity for her son's obnoxious ATV, she was throwing full-blown backyard bashes powered by our juice. We're talking dazzling lighting rigs, humming mini fridges, and get this, a karaoke machine belting out tunes, all hooked up to neighbor power like her yard was some parasite-powered nightclub. And guess who had the footage to prove it? Me! The storm was brewing, and the worst was yet to come. Can you feel the tension? What started as a pesky neighborhood annoyance ballooned into a jaw-dropping case of coordinated utility theft, with stakes higher than I ever imagined. This wasn't just about a few sneaky cords anymore. It demanded a hardcore technical dive. I launched an all-out audit of energy usage, poring over metadata correlations and conducting a forensic review of months' worth of footage. With my neighbors' enthusiastic consent, I rolled out smart monitoring devices across every affected property. The data we collected, time-synced, and mapped across the neighborhood's power grid, painted a crystal clear picture, a surge pattern screaming of external charging equipment being plugged in and yanked out under cover of night. The timestamps? They matched perfectly with footage of Karen's teenage son slinking between properties, pretending to chase stray balls or fiddle with yard chores. Sneaky, but not sneaky enough. I dug deeper, my heart racing as I analyzed power phase fluctuations and spotted transient voltage drops in our shared subgrid. These weren't your typical residential blips. They screamed high amperage induction devices, like the inverter-based systems used for electric vehicles or heavy-duty appliances. Karen was misusing our residential power systems for equipment they were never meant to handle. It wasn't just a civil slap on the wrist, it was potentially criminal misuse of public utility access. How could she think she'd get away with this? I sent my report to a city energy auditor, and when they reviewed it, their response sent chills down my spine. This wasn't just neighbor-to-neighbor theft, it was third-party utility fraud under municipal code. Unauthorized, unmetered electricity use, especially if it crossed a certain threshold, could lead to criminal charges and hefty restitution. Karen's scheme? It spanned multiple homes, racking up a staggering 3,000 kWh over 4 months. That's no small potatoes. My heart pounded with vindication as the auditor confirmed the gravity of her actions. The neighbors' stories only added fuel to the fire. They shared bizarre encounters, extension cords slithering across lawns like sneaky snakes, lights glowing in outbuildings they never touched, breakers tripping for no reason. One neighbor's smart sprinkler system kept shutting off, and would you believe it? The logs showed brownouts that lined up exactly with Karen's late-night parties. These weren't just random complaints. They were persuasive, heart-wrenching evidence of her betrayal. Using drone footage and analyzing luminance values from my security cameras, I pieced together Karen's party circuit like a detective in a thriller. The string lights, bass-pumping amplifiers, chilled drink coolers, and that blaring karaoke system, they guzzled at least 2 kW per hour, way beyond casual use, and every watt was siphoned through unauthorized connections, snaking across fences, tucked beneath hedgerows, and even jury-rigged into a rewired irrigation control box. The nerve of it all! My blood boiled, but my resolve was stronger than ever. Armed with this mountain of evidence, 2 neighbors and I marched to the city utility board, hearts pounding, and filed a formal complaint demanding a full audit of neighborhood energy allocations. A private attorney, fired up by our cause, started drafting a civil claim for damages. Our strategy was a triple threat: hit Karen with restitution demands, push for law enforcement to investigate, and pressure the HOA to rewrite its bylaws to crack down on utility theft. We were done playing nice. Karen, though, she was clueless or maybe willfully blind to the tsunami of consequences crashing toward her. She strutted around, acting like our united front was some personal vendetta, tossing around dramatic phrases like surveillance mob rule or neighborhood fascism in heated rants outside the clubhouse. Can you believe the theatrics? Her words were no match for our cold, hard data, and deep down she must have known it. The HOA, finally waking up to the fact that their credibility was on the line, called an emergency meeting. No more dodging or deflecting, they had to act. Karen was stripped from all subcommittees, her access to communal amenities was yanked, and they ordered her to disconnect every single unauthorized electrical line. A certified letter from the local energy authority landed at her doorstep, announcing an investigation for meter tampering and utility theft under city code. It demanded a home inspection, which, surprise, she completely ignored, triggering a subpoena. Oh, Karen, what were you thinking? As word of the investigation spread, the neighborhood's mood shifted from frustration to pure vindication. Those who'd suffered in silence for months finally felt seen, their voices heard. Even folks who hadn't been directly hit started speaking out, fed up with Karen's entitled attitude. The utility company's analysis hit like a thunderbolt. The back-billed energy cost topped $1.800. Add in HOA fines, legal fees, and property violations, and Karen was staring down a financial nightmare that no amount of mimosa sipping could drown out. Our documentation? A whopping 60 pages of screenshots, legal definitions, energy profiles, and a gut-punch summation of the community's pain. We had her cornered. Karen never once apologized or owned up to her mess, clinging to denial like a lifeline. But denial wasn't going to save her. It was just proof she'd underestimated us, her neighbors, who fought back with precision, documentation, and an unshakable teamwork. The consequences were real, enforceable, and backed by institutional muscle. What hit me hardest, though, was how easily this could have been avoided. One neighborly conversation, one simple ask, and none of this would have happened. But entitlement? It's a delusion that crumbles one data point at a time. Can you imagine the irony? In the weeks after Karen's spectacular fall, our neighborhood transformed into something beautiful. People waved with genuine smiles, their eyes sparkling with newfound connection. The Shock by Karen group chat, once a war room, morphed into a cozy hub for swapping garden tips, planning block parties, and sharing hilarious memes about rogue extension cords. We'd bonded through her chaos, turning a cluster of isolated houses into a tight-knit community. Who knew a power thief could bring us together like this? Karen, on the other hand, was struggling to keep up appearances. Her backyard, once a buzzing nightclub, fell eerily silent. The ATV? Gone, rumored to have been sold to cover her mounting restitution and legal bills. The karaoke machine, string lights, and those suspiciously loud speakers vanished into thin air. In their place, a bizarre collection of garden gnomes scattered across her lawn, like she was trying to reinvent herself as the quirky, harmless neighbor instead of the power-stealing menace we all knew her to be. Her son, once the cocky prince of the cul-de-sac, was reduced to yard labor mowing lawns, hauling trash, weeding driveways. Was it punishment or a desperate grab for goodwill? Either way, his ATV glory days were history. He shuffled around, avoiding eye contact, his usual smirks replaced by a quiet, humble demeanor. Oh, how the mighty had fallen. The HOA faced its own reckoning, and it was glorious. After the meeting that laid bare Karen's web of theft, several board members either resigned in shame or were voted out by a fed-up community. New elections buzzed with real participation. People who'd never cared about bylaws suddenly showed up with clipboards and passion. A former firefighter named Gwen was elected president, and she didn't waste a second. She drafted a revised charter that outlawed utility theft, greenlit random inspections, and slapped fines on anyone tampering with electrical setups. It even set strict rules on power setups near property lines and mandated inspection tags for outdoor systems. I was asked to join the safety subcommittee, but I politely declined. Politics aren't my thing. I just wanted a nonsense-free neighborhood. Gwen got it and appreciated my offer to advise when needed. What a breath of fresh air. Neighbors jumped on the bandwagon, upgrading their electrical systems with gusto. I helped install tamper-proof outlets, my hands buzzing with pride as I showed others how to monitor their usage with simple tools. Some even joked I should launch a business called Shock Guard. I laughed, but the idea sparked something in me. Maybe there was a future in this. The neighborhood was alive, united, and stronger than ever. Karen faced a different kind of eviction, not from her house, but from the illusion she'd built. The city fined her for utility theft. The HOA buried her in violation bills, and neighbors, they steered clear, leaving her isolated, disgraced, and utterly depowered. She tried to cling to her old persona, dragging a squeaky garden hose to her yard one spring day, spraying her flower beds in a bright pink tracksuit, humming loudly like she still owned the block. Nobody cared. She tried again, blasting music from a battery-powered speaker, but the group chat just chuckled. Karen's testing the airwaves. No one took the bait. Without power, literal and figurative, she couldn't stir up chaos anymore. How fitting. I checked my cameras less and less, my decoy outlets sitting untouched, my logs blissfully clean. I thought about dismantling the system, but decided to keep it a badge of vigilance. A reminder of what happens when good people stand up to disrespect, even when it hides behind yoga pants and fake smiles. One day, while tweaking my solar grid, I heard a voice behind me. It was Karen, standing at my property line, looking worn out, no sunglasses, no swagger. I just wanted to. Well, I guess I owe you an apology, she said, her voice small. I stared, caught off guard but unmoved. For which part? I asked, my tone sharp. The theft? The lies? The fake police report? The HOA circus? She flinched, clearly not expecting my bluntness. All of it, she mumbled. I messed up. I stayed silent, letting her squirm. She cleared her throat. I didn't realize how serious it was. I thought it was harmless. It's never harmless when you take what's not yours, I shot back, especially not over and over. She nodded, barely. I get that now. We stood there, the silence heavy. Well, she said awkwardly, just wanted to say that. She shuffled back to her house, slower, quieter, like a shadow of her former self. I didn't forgive her, not yet. Maybe not ever. I wasn't even sure I believed her. But maybe, just maybe, it was a tiny step toward her understanding that she hadn't just drained electricity, she drained trust, respect, and community goodwill. That evening, I sat on my porch, a warm cup of tea in hand, watching the sun melt into an orange glow behind the rooftops. The air was still, the neighborhood quiet. For the first time in months, I felt true peace, no ATV roaring, no cords sneaking where they didn't belong, no spikes on my monitor, just the soft rustle of leaves and the distant hum of a calm evening. Neighbors waved as they passed, their smiles warm and genuine. A kid zipped by on a regular bicycle, not some souped-up electric beast, and I couldn't help but smile. Peace, I realized, isn't something you just stumble into. Sometimes you have to engineer it, wire it with care, guard it fiercely, and when someone tries to steal it, you hit them with a charge they'll never forget. What a journey it's been.